Hi everybody, my name is Stephanie Parra. I'm the Executive Director at All In Education. Thank you so much for joining us for our first ever Adelante Pitch Day. We are so thrilled to be here today at All In Education. We believe that if we're going to close the opportunity gaps that exist for our Latino students and families, we have to make sure that we have more Latinos and values-based leaders serving in classrooms and in boardrooms across the state. And we believe that that's what it's going to take to build that more vibrant Arizona that we want. And as a result of that theory of change, we have successfully launched over the last couple of years 3 new programs: our Parent Educator Academy, our Listo Academy, which is our Leaders in Support of Transformational Opportunities, and then of course what we are celebrating today, our Adelante Fellowship. So I'm so proud of the work that we've done so far, and you are going to hear from 23 incredible leaders who are passionate about making change in our community. And what's really been cool about the Adelante Fellows is their personal journey that they have been on, taking a deep dive on reflecting on where we have been to truly understand where we are going and where we need to head. And so you'll hear some of those stories tonight as well. And I will turn it over to Miguel, who will talk more about what we'll cover today.
Hello everybody, you all missed it before you all got here. I actually fell down the steps. It was pretty entertaining. You all missed the entertainment of it. However, really this isn't a night for me, it's for our fellows. As Stephanie mentioned, my name is Miguel Delgadillo and I'm the Leadership Programs Director at All In Education. And I am so thrilled to see so many new faces, so many familiar faces here today to celebrate these amazing individuals that have invested so much of their time to learn about the education system, and really to continue their journey to be advocates so that our students come out winning. At the end of the day, all the work that we're doing as an organization and that these fellows are doing are for our students to win. They're not doing it for themselves anymore. They're done with that journey, right? They're done with the K-12 journey. They're paving the way for the future. And that's what they've done with this fellowship. This fellowship is a 10-month-long commitment. They showed up on a Saturday. Come on a Saturday. These amazing emerging leaders have shown up on a Saturday, devoted almost 10 hours of their day to learn how the education system works, how politics really work in the education system. They learned about their identity. Stephanie mentioned that knowing really where you came from is really paving the way to show you where you're going. And importantly, they're using that to find solutions to challenges and barriers that our students and schools are facing. And that's really what you are all here today to hear about. All these amazing ideas that they came up with to fix, to help, to aid our schools, and so that our students come out with it. And I do want to also mention that this work could have not been possible without our amazing facilitator, Hernandez. She created a space like no other. She created a space of boldness, of courage, a space where you could be yourself and learn and support each other. I would love it if you all felt the love that we feel every Saturday. Because now they are family, they are their own support system, and now they have all of you all to continue to support them. And this has been our first, it's our inaugural fellowship, and it's the first time again, like doing all of this. But there's been bumps, there's been, so many bumps in the road, but they've come out succeeding, and I'm so proud of them. I told myself I'm not going to cry, but you'll probably see me in the corner crying, and it's only because of how proud I am to be in a room with them. So thank you all so much for being here. But before I pass it along to the fellows, I do want to pass it on to Johanna to give a few words as well.
Hello everyone, I am so honored to be here with you all today. Please, let's give it up for our fellows one more time. The last 10 months have been extraordinary for me personally, and like I said earlier, you all have poured so much into me. I am definitely a much better person because I know all of you. And I know, I'm not going to say I hope, I know that you are all walking away into this world to make it a better place because we have each other. So thank you all again for trusting me in this process, and thank you all to the All in Ed team. Please give it up to them. It has not been easy. It took a lot of trust, and I am so grateful that you all trusted me. And it's a dream realized, honestly. We started talking about you all in 2020, and it's 2022, and we are here. So again, thank you all so much. I want to transition us to, so you all can hear about our amazing fellows. So we all know them already, but this will be a different part of them that you'll be able to experience. So this next segment is going to be the where I've been, where I am, and where I'm going. We have grown so much through our racial identity journeys, through our content, right, like what is education, and now piecing all those things of our experiences, where we are now and where we're going. That's what it's all about, right? So I'm going to ask David Chavez to please come on up.
Thank you, Johanna. Afternoon, everybody. Good evening. As Johanna said, my name is David Chavez, one of the many fellows here who are trying to do good work and continue to take what we learn in our lessons out into the world after today. So I'm going to share a little bit about myself, where I'm at, where I've been, where I'm at, where I'm going. So a little bit where I'm at. I currently work for City of Phoenix. I run their workforce development program, the youth workforce program. We target 16 to 24-year-olds, opportunity at-risk youth. So we'll get back to that. Let's start with where I've been. So first there, you see a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed young man, freshly graduated, commencement. We're starting there because of what I've been through to get to where I'm at. So I got some notes here just to keep me on track. Those of you who've heard this, it turned into a little bit of a mess when I was sharing this. So growing up in South Phoenix as a young kid there, single mother raised one of 4 kids. Had a father who was in and out of incarceration, so not really around, and not much of an example to set for that young man. So as we kind of continue to grow and learn where our lot was in the world, public assistance, in and out of different types of housing, and just trying to, my mom, keep food on the table, clothes on our backs, and keep those kids happy, unaware of kind of the realities in our world and what's going on. As she continues to see the troubles that we're going to continue to follow us as we get a little bit older in South Phoenix, she moved us out of there, moved us to West Valley for my West Siders, and that's where I think for my siblings and I, we got to see a bit more of the disparities. We got to see the gaps of where we were at in our lives compared to our peers, where our new school clothes or school toys were coming from thrift stores and hand-me-downs, garage sales, and avoiding, for me, a lot of it was avoiding conversations about home life, history, not having to share, visiting my dad in prison, and being that kid, talking to my dad on the phone, through the glass, and just avoiding that big gap in where I was in my family and where they were at. So our goals were just to finish high school. I'm not barely scraped by to finish high school in South. Dad, as far as I know, was sophomore, junior year, and that was it. So that was just it. That was the goal. Get through high school and see where life takes you from there. So when that happened, first graduating high school amongst my siblings, I got to see where all my friends were going. College bound, had careers ready, and that was it for me, high school. And I bounced around, jobs, different jobs. Worked at the airport for a couple of years, did retail, worked in food service, and just didn't see myself going anywhere. I got to see the successes my friends were having and what my friends were experiencing. So I realized cycles need to change. I need to do something. Fortunately, through my friendships, I was taking bits and pieces of their dads, of their big brothers, and making that as an example, kind of what I need to do. That leads me to kind of where I'm at now. First generation, college graduate, was able to scrape my way through a master's degree. I think that's where I'm going to cap it. No more homework, no more assignments for me. But I met, during that time, I met a beautiful woman who saw my story and helped me, excuse me. She helped me see the value of how I can share this. What I can do to help the next young Latino, young Latina, BIPOC individual and share that. Get rid of the resentment and the anger and become resilient, become an example. So through that, I was able to get into a solid career with the City of Phoenix, make that a passion of mine with serving at-risk opportunity youth and marginalized populations through federal programs that the City of Phoenix manages. Along the way, we have two beautiful children who, through my history, I have perfect examples of what not to do. So now I try to be the best father, the best husband that I can be, and the best community servant and advocate through my work in the City of Phoenix. Moving into where I'm going, you'll see, again, my relationship with my wife is at the top of the pyramid. The best father that I can be to give my son and my daughter the support that they need, the enrichment and love to create those bright futures for them. And continue to support my friends and family that you see there. And then a little bit of the work that I continue to do. Although most of my work is done at City Hall, I still continue to find those opportunities to go out and really get into the community and continue to be a face of the work that we're doing, so that it's not lost on me on where I've been and where I'm at and where I'm going. Thank you.
Welcome to one of our sessions. There are a lot of tears. No, but thank you very much, David. Vulnerability is where we start to make a difference in the world. So I join you all to continue leading in. And with that, I'm going to invite Olga Hernandez to come on.
Hello, everybody. My name is Olga Hernandez. I rarely get to use my full name, so I want to take full advantage of this. So, very excited to be here. This is the first time I get to talk about my story in front of my own family. I have my sister and my mom joining me today. And a quick shout out to my mom. We celebrated her birthday 2 days ago. So, I'm a proud daughter of an immigrant. I'm a first-generation Mexican-American. I'm the oldest of two. First-generation college student. Any first-generation college students here? Raise your hands. Yes, you rock. Currently, I'm an architect in training. I work at a local architecture firm in Phoenix. I've been working on K-12 schools for the last 4 years. And as of the last 2 years, I've been working on Mesa High School. So if you ever drive by and see the 2 new buildings that are going up, I got to work on those. I'm super proud of that project. So to go back into my story, the first picture on the left, that's one of my favorite pictures of my family. And every time I see that picture, I think of joy, love, happiness, all these wonderful moments of my childhood. But to get to that moment, I want to do a little quick backtrack. My sister and I were both born in LA, and shortly after her dad passed away, I was 2 years old, my sister was 1. We moved around a few times. We moved to Phoenix with some relatives. We moved to Mexico with her grandma, and then we moved back to Phoenix, and we never left. And here I am today. And it was rough. Raised by a single mother who I'm very proud of and always look up to, and I owe everything to her. And despite all the hardships, we had financial struggles, language barriers. We were learning English at the same time. And I mentioned earlier about, as a kid, being a translator for your parents sometimes. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. But despite all of that, I always think of all the unconditional love and support that I received from my mom growing up, and I have to this day, which has shaped me into the person that I am today. So I owe it to my mom. So being the first in the family to go to college, I had to navigate myself through the system, figuring out what it meant to get into college, applying for scholarships, filing FAFSA, all these things you have to do to get into college. On top of that, a lot of learning of, I didn't know what the word major meant. Like, there's a lot of learning that needs to happen when you don't have your parents to help you. My mom wanted to support me any way she could, but there were certain things that she didn't know how to help me. So I had to figure that out. Getting to college, I got my letter of acceptance. I was ecstatic. First letter of reward that I received from my first scholarship, I was completely excited because that was all me. I was so proud of myself. Getting to college, next year was my sister's turn. My mom said, "You're going to help your sister." I was a little upset. I was like, well, I have to figure it out. Why can't she do that? But I did help my sister. And it was in that moment that I realized that I enjoyed helping someone else. And aside from just being my sister, she was another student going into college. And ever since then, I've been part of different mentoring programs, working with high school juniors and seniors. I mentored incoming freshmen through different scholarship programs. I've worked with different college students throughout my education, and now as a working professional. And currently, I established a college program with the professional chapter that I'm with called NOMA. It stands for National Organization of Minority Architects, and I'm one of the co-founding members for the Arizona chapters. So I've been able to work closely with college students within the architecture and design programs, helping them with networking opportunities, mentorship, different workshops that gives them an insight into looking for a job, how to prepare for a job, all those little things. When I look back, those are all things that I didn't have, but there were many things that over time I started realizing what I needed and things that I wish I had. So instead of me dwelling on that, I take all of that and I live by the phrase, be the person that you needed when you were younger. And that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years, ever since I graduated. I'm very lucky I was able to pursue up to a master's degree. I have 2 master's degrees, architecture and master's degree in architecture and in urban design. And I love being able to share my story with other students and inspire them. If I can inspire at least one student, I think my job is done here, because I love being able to talk to students. And that kind of ties in with the center picture. This picture's from last year. We participated in a architecture summer camp partnering with the Roosevelt School District, and I'm currently co-organizing with another architect for the second camp, which is beginning of June. So I'm very excited to work with middle school students, telling them what architecture is. It's a merge of my passions, students, community, architecture, while being able to inspire the next generation of architects, and being able to represent your community. And then moving on to where I want to be, that's actually a picture of myself. This is that project that I'm working at Mesa High School, and I'm so proud of this project. I love seeing it come to life. And I love sharing this with other students. We actually had a group of high school students from the Foundation. I think it's cutting off. So being able to share this with high school students and having them see a glimpse of what architecture is, what other opportunities they have out there as a career, is very enlightening for me. One of my main goals currently, aside from continue to work with students and be able to guide them and mentor them, I am working towards my license right now. I'm in the path of taking my exams to be able to call myself an architect. I didn't take all those years of schooling for nothing. So I want to make it worth it. And I love seeing these pictures side by side, little Olga, and I just want to tell her you're going to do so many great things in life. Thank you.
We are the genesis of transformation. We truly are. Thank you so much, Olga, for your story. And for one more story, we are going to invite up Adrian Midwall.
All right, everybody. All right, recheck. All right, so hi, my name is Adrian Midwall. I'm a current fourth-year educator at Adelante High School in Phoenix Union High School District. Phoenix Union, to kind of start, so David, I got my notes too. So where I've been, I grew up in the Bay Area, part of California, and I moved here to Arizona State to pursue my education at ASU. Not sure if anyone knows about the Bay Area, but we always say, Bay Area. My boyfriend's talking up there, so that's my understanding. Yeah, so some other things about me. I grew up by a single mother. I have 3 siblings. You can see them up there. Yeah, the one with the big smile on my face, that's me. You can also see that I was the one that gained the brains and my brothers gained the bronze, so. Something changed. Yeah, I grew up to a single mother, 3 siblings. We all really tried our hardest to be there for our mother, as much as others do. My father was mostly in and out of the picture, and I'm like, shaking right now. Yeah, he was an immigrant from the Philippines, and he tried his best to move here and assimilate, but family just wasn't in his cards. So, something that I've learned from my parents and something that I've learned from where I've been would be how hard they worked for us. There would be nights where my mom would be working overnights from about 8 p.m. until 4 a.m. the next day. My father, when he was in the picture, he was working. And that's tough because I see myself and a lot of him. He still works 2 full-time jobs to this day, and I appreciate that. I see the hard work. We have a better relationship now, but I see that, and I've grown to know that because of the ambition and the determination from my parents, I've been able to move forward and pursue a better life that they sacrificed everything for. Moving on though. I moved here for ASU. I started as an out-of-state student. As you can see here, here's my graduation with my 2 siblings. Other brother couldn't make it. So while I was there were some, I guess you could say, amazing feats that I did. And everyone always applauds me for it. I'm like, it's really just a trauma response. While I was at ASU, I was able to gain a minor in sustainability with a focus in environmental change. I have also participated in back-to-back semesters of 28 credit hour overloaded classes while supporting myself with 2 full-time jobs. And then to cap it off, because I'm crazy. I got a full year teaching residency at Central High School in Phoenix Union. And it was during that year where I really learned my style and my approach as a teacher. And what I noticed was that I really, truly am passionate about supporting English language learners. And I truly believe that passion comes from my own father now, as I see him try to translate within his own head. But that development for that passion and the intersection of what I studied in college with science and English language learners is what has really developed my style of teaching today. And that's where I'm currently at. So, at my full year of student teaching, I noticed that there's a huge disparity in the way that pre-emergent, basic, intermediate students learned, and the level of instruction that they need just wasn't there within specific classes. So during that time, I learned how to differentiate, I learned how to support, I learned how to celebrate and appreciate these culturally and linguistic diverse students. While I've been doing that, fast forward to where I'm at today, Adelante High School, 4th year educator, in case you forgot. I have 2 full sections of pre-emergent students. These students traditionally would have fell behind or would have had to stay an extra 2 years to ensure that they graduated. But what I have advocated for the last 4 years is to actually have these students learn biology within the first year so that they can move on to the next levels of science and be able to graduate within 4 years. When I tell you these students are like my pride and joy, I was trying to look for a picture, but we had done our first lab, full coats, full goggles, everything, dressed to the nines. And they were just so happy, and I remember them saying like, Snapchat, 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 and I was like, all right, we should have built this into the time today. Yeah, those kids, those are my life. I hope to see them grow and change, and yes, graduate in 4 years. A little bit about where I want to go. Within the next few years, I hope that I can see myself as a leader on campuses and oversee schools that appreciate and celebrate students that are culturally and linguistically diverse. And I hope that we have programs, or at least schools, that celebrate these students to graduate on time, to accelerate them, to ensure that they are ready for college, career, and life. Thank you.
Thank you. One more round of applause for our They always showed up full of love, with their heart on their sleeve, and ready to be vulnerable, even when they didn't want to. So I thank you all so much for allowing me to be in this space and creating this space alongside us. So with that said, I'm going to transition to Jessica.
All right, so I'm the boring guy that got to talk about the fellowship, going after some of those amazing stories. One thing that I love about the stories that we all share with one another is that it's a reminder that we all share a shared history, right? Like, I'm so inspired by everyone's story, but at the same time, I can relate to those words, I can relate to that history, I can relate to that struggle. And with the fellowship, we really wanted to key in on that. Mastery of self, mastery of identity, knowledge about the education system, and systems change efforts, because it's so important to take that history and leverage it into action, right? We didn't want this to be another course or a workshop or something that you could read in a book. We wanted this to be an experience where we learn about ourselves, our struggles, and turn that into real life work, real life systemic change within our communities, because your stories are your stories now, but there's 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds that are going through that story right now. And they don't have time to wait. So we need to take all of this energy and package it into what we call action projects. So we divided up our cohort for this fellowship, the participants in the fellowship, into 4 teams where the fellows self-organized into issues that they wanted to dive into. We used a results-based leadership framework to help guide their energy into actionable projects. We asked them to identify a challenge and then to identify measurable indicators of success. So we didn't want them to spend time developing theoretical solutions to abstract challenges. We wanted the real data. What are you going to go out there and change? What are the strategies that you're going to use? And how are we going to see that impact our children's lives? So we use that framework, and I'm just happy to say that we've been so surprised and so proud to show off the work that our fellows did. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first team, which is tackling making sure that every student in Arizona gets in-state tuition for everyone.
Good afternoon, buenas tardes. My name is Hernandez, and the reason I do this work is because every student, no matter their status, deserves a higher education.
Hello everybody, my name is Oscar Hernandez, Ortiz. I believe in our project because I think we can resurrect the American dream here in Arizona.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Victoria Villalba, and I do this work. I'm really interested in this topic because it's deeply personal. It impacts my family, it impacts my friends and my community, and I want to highlight on the efforts that we did for this project.
I'm Xavier Gonzalez. This is important to me because my brother, as a DACA recipient, should be able to pursue his higher education at the same tuition rate as I do.
My name is Adrian Midwall, and I come from a hardworking family that made sacrifices so I can enjoy opportunity, and I think Arizona is filled with hardworking families that deserve that same chance.
And if you want to go back real quick. And this word cloud was created by Brianna, so thank you, Brianna, for doing that for us. But, you know, we have all of our whys, right? Everyone has their own personal why. But our collective why is her. Her name is Maria. She is a Arizona student, hardworking, passionate student who has been an advocate for her community. She is currently attending Arizona State University, pursuing a degree to hopefully become a lawyer one day to fight for her community and students like herself. Maria, unfortunately, does not qualify for in-state tuition. She is undocumented and has to deal with paying higher tuition rates than those of residency status. Interviewing Maria was an emotional time, and this is why we work for her and students like her. And there has to be, everybody in this room has to know someone like Maria. Maria is an inspiration for us and is the face for our work, and this is why we do our work.
So, Maria is one of the reasons why we do this, and we know that Arizonans also agree with us. We know that because we have Achieve 60 Arizona, which is a statewide plan, to make sure that by 2030 we have about 60% of Arizona students obtaining a post-high school certificate or degree. So we know that people want an educated workforce and educated in Arizona. However, we see things like Proposition 300 stopping that because Arizona's passed that proposition in 2006 and it's sort of getting in the way. The way that it's getting in the way is that we see Prop 300 inflating the tuition for undocumented and DACA recipients in Arizona, making it harder than ever before for these students to get a college degree. So, we believe that every Arizona graduate should have the ability to get a college degree at the same cost despite their status. So, we need to re-implement in-state tuition for all Arizonans graduates by supporting Prop 308.
So, like Oscar said, our project is to pass Prop 308, which would give undocumented students that meet two criteria. They have to attend 2 years of schooling here in Arizona and graduate from school, whether that's public, private, or homeschooled, but from an Arizona school. And all we need is a vote on Prop 308.
Thank you, Oscar and Brianna, for so nicely laying out the challenge that we faced as a group when we came into this project. As Jeff mentioned earlier, our work, our goal with this project was based on a results statement. So as a group, we are tackling the issue of passing Prop 308, and it would be really challenging for us to take on as a group the results of our work being passing Prop 308. So we took more tangible, smaller steps towards that. So we based our work off of two different pillars, advocacy and research. We wanted to make sure that our work was grounded in the information that went into knowing more about Prop 308 and the history behind it. And once we started tackling the different issues we were taking, we focused on advocacy, so centering community and the people that are affected by the issue. We wanted to center their voices. And so part of the ways that we're measuring the success of the projects that we are taking on is partially right whether this Prop 308 passes on November 8th, but also by the metrics of our people engaged in the publications that we're putting out and how many people are attending the different sessions that we have laid out, and my colleagues will speak more about that. Thank you so much, Valia. So we came to this fellowship, and then we all went into a Zoom room after we were chosen to be part of this project. But something that I learned was, and this was really recent, I think it was in our last session, many of us emailed Libby directly and stated, we want to work in this project. And I think mine was like, or I won't do anything, right? I didn't say that, but that's just the passion that was in the room, right? So we outlined some best practices and our approach. So the first thing we did was learn, how are you engaged in this work? There's a big history of activism, a long history of activism in Arizona, and we focused on relationship building. Who are you amongst each other, how are we interconnected, but then also in the community, we have conversations about who are the folks that are doing the work. Through the direction of All in Ed, we learned, that Aliento was one of the partners and they wanted us to work with them, and we wrestled with that, like, how do we come into this work? They've been doing these things, so that was really important conversations. And we also engaged Aliento in having this conversation with us. And we had a really long meeting with Aliento, like 2-hour meeting, and I thought they were gonna meet less, but it was great. Jose made time, and they got to know us, and we got to intersect with this work. Another thing we did was center community. Our communities are experts, right? The lived experiences are important. So we looked at our own lived experiences, and we saw each other as experts of our own lived experience, and then we brought a lot of knowledge, trusting that All in Education chose amazing candidates for this fellowship, and that we were going to work together and build skills together, teaching each other the things that we knew, and sharing knowledge and also celebration. So those were really important things. And one of the things that we did was showing up in the struggle. So this is something that I leaned a lot more this year, and I'll talk more about this connection, but showing up in the struggles is important, right? Sending an email and connecting, hi, you're doing this fellowship, but then also how can we connect? How can we support? So now Aliento has learned that they have different folks that can connect to this work, and even Jose mentioned once, like, oh, we could have used more supervisors for the capital event. We didn't even think about it. We didn't even think that we could use more people to help us guide all these young folks in this public space. So those are important things to center that we're coming into this work, and it's been wonderful to work with these folks, and we really leaned into having challenging conversations as well, that when we work in team is important as well. But also offering grace, right? And celebrating different joys, and also making space for each other in the growth places where we are. So that's how we work together.
Like we were talking about, we have 2 pillars. I and Oscar work, as well as Brianna work on the advocacy portion of our work. For us, it was showing up for our community, right? So advocacy, just putting our faces out there, asking of the community, what do you need of us, how can we help? Partnering with organizations again like Adrian, who have been the leaders in this work, and just asking them, what can we do? How can we be allies? And there were different ways we did that. Oscar and I worked on a resolution to provide to the ASU Student Governing Board, because we know that the youth vote is important, especially for this issue. So that resolution we're still working on it, but we are going to send it over to get support behind now, 308. And then we're also working to partner with community leaders to help get the vote out. But we're also looking to raise our voices and those in the community. And I'm going to speak a little bit on that.
Thank you, Rihanna. And like you mentioned, the key to advocacy is being able to center this as a human issue, because it is a human issue. And that's why we're going to be releasing some op-eds at the beginning of August to not only reach the readers that already agree with us on the issue, but to educate readers that are probably against or unaware that this is happening in the state, because there are people who don't understand that this is happening, that in-state tuition is not for every Arizona student. We're also going to make sure to put an emphasis on being on several radio talk shows to attract Spanish listenership and to encourage them to get out in the community and vote. And at the end of the day, what we want to encourage is to empower people to tell their story and why this is very important.
Thank you, gentlemen. Along with the advocacy pillar, we also have a research pillar. And here we use the ADDIE model to be able to create a slide deck to be able to do a training. And in doing so, we use research, history-based, we pull from our expertise, along with being able to teach, learn from others teaching, like I said, from Aliento. And ultimately, our goal is to be able to seek community leaders like yourselves in this room, along with everyone here, to be able to build a strong advocacy network towards this issue. In doing so, our training learning objectives are to be able to describe the history and the impact it has on Dreamers' access and education in Arizona and U.S., to be able to describe the importance of Proposition 308, be able to explore the different ways to take action, create a plan of action, and ultimately practice designing and delivering a pitch to educate the community about Proposition 308.
So, although today is our graduation day from the Adelante Fellowship, we don't think, and we know that the work is not over because it is till November 8th, so we're done with this project. So what we see here on this timeline is some of the actions from our 2 pillars. So starting this summer, we want to begin our training and get people excited, informed, and ready to vote on November 8th. And for August, we want to make sure that we have our media content finalized. So that means the op-eds, any infographics, and what pages that we will work on or collaborate to work on. Get that all ready for August so we are ready to have a bunch of stuff published in September all the way to November. And make sure everybody, no matter if they're on Instagram, on newspaper, or maybe just watching TV, that they know to vote on 308. And hopefully by late October, all the way to November, we're going to be working with different organizations in One Arizona to make sure that we're knocking on people's doors, that we're sending mailers, and just getting the vote out, because November 8th is the way we get to vote on whether Arizonans will have institution no matter where you're from.
Thank you, Oscar. So now here is our call to action to all of you and our fellows. All right, be able to be committed to come to our training sessions to get educated on Proposition 308. Be committed to be able to turn around and do the training in your own community. Be able to spread the word about Proposition 308 and also empower to reach communities. This is an Arizona thing, not just a Phoenix thing, Arizona-wide. And also share our publications. Additionally, funds. To be able to fund all in education, the INCO in Arizona is a coalition of organizations that is supporting Proposition 308. Remember that Arizona tax credit, okay? We're all eligible. And ultimately, vote before or on November 8th. Make sure we get out there. Make sure you encourage your family, relatives, neighbors, everyone that's eligible to vote is voting and their voice is being heard.
So we do have an Ask for all of you today. This is our QR code if you're interested in joining one of our training sessions, hosting one, having us host one. We ask that you please fill out the form and we'll be reaching out to you. Again, this work is super important. We really want to go ahead and move forward with getting a yes and passing Prop 308.
Thank you, Brianna. So we'll go back to that QR code, but I wanted to highlight this, our partners. So I work for Instituto, so I'm going to do not a shameless plug, but a great plug, because we work with communities of color. We work to build political power with low-income communities and communities of color. So All in Education is actually an incubation project that came out of Instituto, and this is amazing because one of the key things when it comes to this work is coalition. It's important for us to work together in different areas and different avenues and having different conversations. So part of the training that we design is for this. How do I talk to someone who is really into this topic, but they have a network and they just don't have awareness? Or how do you talk to folks that are, in the middle, they don't know, or they have misconceptions when it comes to talking about all students getting access to in-state or around immigration? So we're ready to tackle those tough challenges, those conversations, and we want to train all of you all to be able to have those conversations and engage in this topic. We also are highlighting yes to 308, so that was before Become Arizona, but this literally just came up today. So yes to 308, and it's that coalition that Xavier was talking about. Also, Aliento has been doing this work. Aliento, Jose and I went to high school together. We started organizing in high school together. Our first march was at Carhagen High School, and we were figuring out all these challenges, right? So they're homies, but they're also doing amazing work and looking at different intersections when it comes to education, the arts, and advocacy, and wellness, and mental health. So they're really amazing. And all of these organizations are in one way, shape, or form interconnected, and we want to invite you all to be part of this. I always talk about Instituto. Serena, I just spoke to you today. Hey, you're looking for a job, vamos. Here's a job post, right? So know that this is also a community that's your community, because All in Education is a convener that brought us together, and we'll continue bringing this work forward and inviting us to the table to wrestle with these challenging conversations. But you also have Instituto, who's really badass. It's wonderful, and I say that because I've actually seen it, right? Actually seen the power that it has to build capacity, to incubate new ideas, and to accelerate projects and build political power in the community. So know that this partnership is strong and it's rooted in a lot of love. and today's theme has been love. So Johanna has talked about love today, and know that this is what we want for all Arizona students.
All right, thank you so much. What a wonderful group. Another hand of applause.
Hello. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for taking today, this Saturday evening, to spend some time with us and really listen in about the amazing work that all of my fellows and peers have been doing for the last 10 months. I have the honor of standing up here and introducing you to our team and kind of starting the work that we've been doing and what we're really focusing on. We are the Equity Activators. Violeta Ramos, Adrian Martinez, Olga Montes, Mirka Martinez, Adrian Manuel, I'm so sorry. Olga Montes, Mirka Martinez, and Veronica Stevens, and I'm Judith Paredes. When we came up with our name, we really wanted to start the action for equitable education for all children. And not just the thought process of it, but really the movement of how we need to move forward to make sure that all children in our state have equitable education. So we really focus on why we wanted to do this, and we're all teachers, parent engagement, and parent educators, and community leaders that are really invested in our students really having quality education. When we were trying to identify our problem, we realized the opportunity gap, right? The opportunity gap is continuously increasing every year, especially after the last 2 years of COVID. The lack of high quality education for our kids is vast, and it's even more so of evidence in the disproportionate amounts of quality schools in our low-income communities and for our students of color. So we really wanted to hone in and focus in those two areas and how we can be the change for that. And it took a lot, and as you can imagine, that's a big topic. That's a huge issue, and the list of problems and issues that need to be fixed is vast and complex. There was 3 main things that kept coming up in our research, and that's school funding, parent engagement, and talent shortage. These are the main issues probably, then they kept coming up probably because they've just been in our news cycle for so long for the last 2 years, and they've been highly affected with everything that's been happening. We decided to focus on the talent shortage. We know that in order for our students to have the access to the quality that they need of education, we need prepared and well-prepared teachers in our schools. But we also need to not only recruit them, we need to train them, and we also need to retain them. So we wanted to really focus in on that and do some work. But in order to start, we wanted to first share how we got there with our teachers.
Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. So AJ and myself are current educators. This is actually my first day teaching. For 11 years, I worked in the nonprofit world, and my focus was always education. It wasn't until last summer that I received a message from my French teacher from high school saying, "Hey, we really need a Spanish teacher. I know you majored in Spanish. I think you'd be great." And I said no. Even knowing just the teacher shortage, I wasn't sure if I could be a good enough teacher for our students, because our students really do deserve the best. I really started thinking about it for the last, previous to that 4 years, I was mentoring college students, most of them first generation students like myself. And that's when I realized, I really thought about my teacher's message, and I didn't have teacher representation. I didn't have teachers that were queer or teachers that were Latinx. And I wanted to be that for these future students. My loved ones, my friends told me, "You already teach me all the time. You can definitely do it in the classroom." So that's when I decided to take that leap and do it. It's been a wonderful year. I'm really excited for what's to come next. Now that I'm behind the scenes, technically, I can see all the inequities, I can see the inconsistencies, and I'm excited to be able to make a difference.
promise you won't have me for this long. All right, so as you know, I'm a fourth year educator at Alhambra High School. I think about my why and why I chose to become a teacher, and it truly reflects back to what Violet was saying. I had teachers that identified as Asian American. I had teachers that identified as gay, lesbian, queer. Those are the teachers that I pay my own career forward to. They are everything to me. When I was with my family, single parent, teachers were really that mentor that helped guide me through a lot of processing that I didn't know how to find. So this is for you. And that mirror really did help me pursue and now advocate for change for more students within my own classroom and beyond. So this is really for those students I really hope to see, probably aren't hearing me right now, but I hope to see and I know that you can make the progressive change that we need here in Arizona communities. Thank you. So, teacher, remember that. I laid this out, a proposal, like I was last time. Our main objective was to solve the teacher shortage and to plan to retain our good talent here in Arizona. We did this by developing a survey that matches with what teachers have experienced within the classroom. So we used a Likert survey. After using this Likert survey, we started to see trends and analyze and interpret this data to see the actual experiences that our students and teachers go through. What you all have in your hands right now is the infographic that we have developed and hope to share out within all-in education within the future. That infographic holds on to some of the most important data points that we have grasped from teachers at Alhambra, Metro Tech, but also teachers across Maricopa County that involve many different districts. After grabbing this infographic, our next steps are hope to share this infographic, but then also pass on to the next cohort and have them focus on focus groups and grab actual qualitative data from these teachers in order to find and identify an initiative that is sustainable and can make progressive change here in Arizona.
As you can see here, these are some of the main points that we were able to really analyze the data and see what the percentages of how teachers feel. We're really lucky, AJ and I are really lucky that our colleagues were able to fill out the survey, and as he said, we did send it to the other teachers in Maricopa County. So this is the information that we got. These are the main points. We really were not surprised. As we were doing research, we realized that this was probably the data that we were going to see and find. And we were happy to know that we were not wrong, that we were on the right path. So yeah, just a little bit of the data. I won't read it because it will take too long, but we'll move on.
All right. Okay. So one of the things that we did was compile all the results, the statements that the teachers provided as far as any common messages that tie to their needs in order to be successful within their profession and at the same time be able to provide a quality education to the students. So some of the common topics or words that we pulled out from this data was pay, an increase in pay. We've been full aware of the need for that across the state, especially across the country. The other one is support. Teachers need support as well. They support their students, but they also need support in order to grow and be able to succeed in their own career and get the tools that they need. And then opportunities was the other big one. Professional development opportunities. How can they grow in their own career and potentially move up and also, kind of tie into the quality of education. So as we look around, there's many words that teachers were talking about their needs. And then as we've already mentioned, we created the infographic, and this is just to show part of the work that we did to put this together. Thank you to Adrian Midwall for passing this along to your own schools to be able to help us to get the data that we need in order to create this. And we've already said this, but this infographic is for the next group that's taking this project on to be able to when they meet with the focus groups, be able to have information at hand that they can use moving forward. Ay, disculpa las notas. I have to read for my notes. Our lessons learned, and we hope these lessons the future fellows learn from as well. But formal structure was set once we filled out our Gantt chart. And not only did this help us with organization, but it also helped us find our strength as a team. Our next lesson learned, which to me was one of the most important ones, was setting goals. We expected to receive over 200 surveys, and it seems wild, I know, but we thought that 200 was very little compared to the teachers we have in the state. We only received 60 plus, but any information is useful. Our third one, design thinking. We took a problem-solving approach and thought of ways to improve what is already there. Being sensitive to stakeholders' interests, this topic is something that many are already tackling. We hope that these larger organizations get to sit together and work in collaboration with a thoughtful approach on how to solve this problem in the future. And have fun with the project. So subjects like these can be overwhelming. We know that we can solve this overnight, but it was really fun working with a team that had the same goal and wanted to hopefully fix the problem one day. Our next steps. As a team, we found organizations that we would like future fellows to partner with. So we have AC Leads, Education Forward Arizona, TNTP, the New Teacher Project, AEA. So we hope that fellows that take over the project next year work with these organizations that are working for a common goal.
Thank you. So we got the ball rolling. This has been an incredible learning experience for these 10 months. But as we are about to hand off the torch to the next generation of Adelante fellows, we hope that we continue to build upon what we started. And so to better understand the baseline, to explore the solutions that are out there, the opportunities that are out there, here are some activities that we wanted to make a suggestion and suggest that they can take on. Create focus groups. So continue to collect data, qualitative data, and an opportunity to reinforce the research that all education is doing that identifies the gap in minority teachers that don't equally represent the classrooms that they are teaching in. So that's a great opportunity for them to dig in there to try to understand what they're feeling, understand their stories, and come up with solutions that appropriately meet their needs. Other opportunity we do is power mapping, understanding different policies that are coming through the pipeline that's going to affect teacher, their compensation, and then likely figure out if that's going to retain teachers or deter teachers. On the other end, we really focus on data. So not only the data that we are sourcing, but plugging into and sourcing data from other academic institutions, other organizations that are working in the space that maybe I had mentioned in the previous slide. And then also we person to explore other elements that are affecting our teachers. That includes effective recruitment strategies, supportive working conditions, and compensation. We know that's a huge issue for our teachers, and we continue to support and advocate for better compensations for our educators. And we can continue to do that with us as well going forward. So this has been a learning journey, and it's been wonderful working and learning with this team, and we hope to continue to support the next cohort of Adelante fellows that come next. Thank you.
Thank you so much to another wonderful group. Our next, so we want to talk about the work. The work is ongoing and the work is collaborative, right? So we're not going to solve these challenges in 10 months, but they are really taking the time to package these things for the next fellowship to take it that much further and that much deeper. But the most important thing is showing up. And this next group is tackling absenteeism in our schools. Without further ado, the absenteeism group.
Hello. Okay. Hi. So we're going to have a little quiz. So if we can have at least 20 people take out their phones and go to Kahoot.it and join with this pin, that would be great. We're going to have a little quiz about this topic. So,
What website was that again?
Kahoot, Kahoot, .it. I'm not a teacher, but I'm about to quiz you. Okay, so I'll come back to this slide in just a second. So hello, we are Team Presente. So again, we are representing on battling chronic absenteeism. So my name is Hernandez. I'm currently a student at ASU getting my master's in social justice and human rights with an emphasis in racial education.
My name is Violeta Flores. I am Latinx, mom of 3, wife, registered nurse, and community leader.
David Chavez, Workforce Development Supervisor for City of Phoenix.
Gilbert Obisu, Community Development Engagement Director at Valley United Way, also affiliated with the University of Arizona, College of Public Health, Division of Public Health Practice, and Translational Research.
And then our group is small, but we're mighty. So let's quickly go and play this Kahoot game. So if you haven't played before, all you have to do is click the right answer. So let's begin. Okay, so a student is considered chronically absent when the student misses blank or more of the days they are enrolled in school. So is it 1, 5, 10, or 15? So right answer is 10%. So Bianca's leading the game. Okay, next question. What is the national rate of schools that suffer from chronic absenteeism, and what does that look like? So how many students? Is it 10%, 15, 20, or 30? So the correct answer is 20%, 6.5 million students. And that's just what's being reported, okay? So Anna's in the lead. Nationally, how much do schools lose annually due to chronic absenteeism? 300 million, 10.7 billion, 6.4 billion, or 50.6 million dollars? So it's $10.7 billion. Okay, Anna's still in the lead. This one's a multi-select, so more than one answer is correct. Why are students absent? So you can select more than one answer. Awesome. Everybody got them. All of these were correct. Okay, looks like JP's in the lead. Based on a Harvard study, a researcher found that blank directly correlates to increased student presence in school. So which one leads to students going to school more often?
Submit.
involvement. Good job. JP's not in the lead. All right. What was the chronic absenteeism rate among Latinx students from 2019 to 2020, so pre-COVID? Eight, 7, 5, and 6%. 8%. Okay, last one. If chronic absenteeism is bad, why is it such a big problem? We have JP. Okay, so the reason why I have this quiz, aside from just going over some numbers, is because when I got picked for this topic, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like a Christmas present, right? But when I went to go wrapping, I opened the box, it was empty. The reason is because there is minimal to no data related to chronic absenteeism. So we know that the issue is that students aren't going to school. We know that people, for some reason, are excusing their children but don't explain why. And after started doing the base research for this, we found that if there is data, it's scattered among smaller groups. We have nonprofits and community organizations that have this data, but schools themselves and local officials aren't trying to get it. So aside from not having the data, having to look for it, having all these like micro hubs having their own data but not really sharing it, this is the big issue. Is everyone knows how bad chronic absenteeism is, but what are we going to do about it if we don't collaborate? So as a team, we have a result statement. We will analyze, discuss, and provide community-based solutions to address the chronic absenteeism of Arizona students. Our proposal will be to work with one public school, which we will discuss later, and assist in implementing solutions to increase student attendance among Hispanic students. So we chose Whittier Elementary School in the Phoenix School District, and a different member will discuss this in detail.
So before we talk about what we can do about it, it's important to share our why. And Mike's story is our why. Mike's story is our first-hand qualitative research data that we obtained, case study. And so we'd like to share a little bit about Mike's history and his experience growing up and being a student of chronic absenteeism. Mike reported, my parents never had money or a stable home for me. They never had reliable transportation to get me to school. He also says that he remembers, I remember it was gradual in the beginning. By third grade, it became normal for me to miss school at least once a week. Mike says, I don't recall anyone intervening or advocating for me. I carried a lot of shame because I didn't finish school. Mike says, what kids need in schools is people that notice something is wrong and speak up to assist that child. If you see something, say something. Take the opportunity to check in on that student and offer resources to make sure that they don't become a statistic. So currently we have some best practices, and these are some of the solutions that have been implemented already or that can be implemented. And as you can see here, we have evidence-based interventions, using counselors and nurses to help intervene. Community collaboration, doing things like community schools in the community. That's something that the American Education Association has established, and it's been successful in certain communities. School climate is something that we can work on. Is it a positive learning environment? Do students feel seen and heard at school? Data tracking, it's something that is hit or miss. some states do a good job of tracking the overall rate, but the reasons why kids miss is very here and there. And then the school principal is key. In our research, we found that the school principal is the one that really sets the stage, sets the precedence for how schools track chronic absenteeism. So what can we do? This is a concrete tool that we created as a group, and this is something that can be implemented, and it's very basic, very easy to do. And so as you can see here, if a student is absent more than 3 days in a quarter, then they could just follow the algorithm. Do they need a referral to the school nurse? Do they need a referral to the school counselor? On and on. And so it's this type of involvement. Not every kid has parent involvement, sadly. They don't always have a caretaker at home to advocate for their education. And so a lot of times it's going to take the people at the school to speak up and say something.
All right, so before I talk about two developing opportunities that can directly and indirectly help with chronic absenteeism and another that can start today, I wanted to just briefly show you all this socio-ecological model. This is the foundation to addressing the social determinants, which is essentially everything outside of the classroom that affects a person's health. My fellow fellows in the next group will go into detail, much more detail about that after us. But really the big thing here is that individuals are at the center of this model. They have interpersonal relationships with other individuals. These relationships form organizations. These organizations are what make up our community, and public policy controls the chaos. So one thing coming online is a community health worker certification through AHS. Some of you may know them as promotoras de salud. These community health workers will be working in that interpersonal realm, that dimension there, really navigating folks through the complex health and social care system. These community health workers have a unique relationship with the folks they serve. As you can see, ecological, right? Ecology. Just like flora and fauna have unique relationships out in the environment, community health workers have unique relationships with the people they serve. There's two tools that these community health workers will be using. The first is a closed-loop referral system that is being developed by the state that ensures that when a person, a child, family who needs services is referred, that there is feedback that is received. So gone are going to be the days of, oh, go down the street, go to St. Vincent de Paul, if you need help, see you later, we don't know what's going to happen with you. Those days are coming to an end. One tool that is available now is on the EPA website. This is specific to addressing asthma triggers in schools. Asthma, along with many other variables, contribute to addressing chronic absenteeism. So for you principals, administrators, and teachers, you can go right now, download this app, and you can analyze your school environment to see if it's healthy and to see if there are any triggers to asthma and other health issues that could be contributing to chronic absenteeism. Another thing noted here is school nurses. We really need to get school nurses into our schools. One example, Academia del Pueblo, that many of you all know. Their school is more than half a century old. They just got a school nurse for the first time within the last 2 years. So really pushing to make sure we have full-time nurses to reduce chronic absenteeism in our schools.
Thank you, Gilbert. As you can see, it's pretty heavy work. A lot of heavy lifting this group was tasked with. So now I'm going to dive into our proposal and just the blueprint that we laid out for our next cohort that's going to be taking the baton from us. Okay, outline here is our 5-phase approach. Conducting our initial research, organization within impacted communities, drafting a program to pilot, launching into action with said pilot, and the data review for our strategic initiatives based on our research and the pilot program. So I'll dive into brief descriptions of each phase. Here, starting with phase 1, which is really beginning with the foundation creation. What we're going to be doing is defining it. What we've done, is define and identify chronic absenteeism impacting our BIPOC and Latinx communities disproportionately. We've also identified the socioeconomic impacts as factors. We want to conduct the engagement with the community leaders to assist with awareness and efforts of chronic absenteeism. And then we draft our action plan and that blueprint to execute on our pilot moving forward. Moving into the next 2, 3, 4, 5 phases. Phase 2 is going to be coordinating our efforts to meet the school officials, school administrators to learn more about current efforts being conducted for addressing chronic absenteeism, and then organizing with related CBO, current community-based organizations within their areas to support and enhance those current efforts. Phase 3 will be finalizing that pilot program with the research and efforts conducted, and then demonstrate and present to schools to implement and execute our pilot program. Phase 4 is executing on that plan and collecting the data to measure that impact that we're able to unveil. And then create a timeline or that point in time reference to monitor the success and impact of the gaps in delivering and how much our pilot program is impacting those communities with chronic absenteeism. And lastly, for phase 5, it's collating all that research and data for analysis efforts. And we want to track those trends and evaluate for strategic initiatives moving forward, and of course any new or additional implementation plans moving forward. Thank you.
Again, the biggest issue we have in relation to chronic absenteeism is that we as a group have laid the foundation, gathered the research, and we're really to see the next leaders, not just of the fellows that we have now, but the next generation. Because the whole point is that opportunity gap keeps going and going. And the reality is it takes time, individuals like us, to put in that time and effort to really, truly do the best for these kids. And I'm only saying this because my mom's here, but every day my mom is like, do your homework, I'll take you to school, I'll pick you up, I'll do anything and everything I can to make sure you get your education. So we're all here to make sure our kids, our siblings, our family members, people that we don't even know but deserve the right to an education, have a quality one. And that begins by having children go to school, by having parents involved and feel comfortable in trusting the school system. So with that, we're closing, and thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you so much for that group. I feel like I got 3 bachelor's degrees on different challenges that our communities is facing. It's hard to coalesce all that information into small presentations. We apologize for going a bit over time, but we do have our last group that's going to present to us their action project. So the next group, Cohort.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are Group Hub, and our project focuses on the social determinants of education. There are a number of factors that impact a student's ability to succeed academically before they ever step foot into a classroom. Hence our group name, Group Hub, because it's really all about those wraparound services that are necessary for students to succeed academically and outside the classroom. My name is Serena Gampas. A little bit about me and my why. My parents, my Nana and Papa, they worked so hard and they sacrificed a lot to make sure that my sister and I had as many educational opportunities as they could provide for us.
And I think we've heard that a lot in other people's lives, a lot of talk of sacrifice. And so I'm very passionate about the fact that we need to have an education system, and I'm working towards an education system where sacrifice is not necessary for families to send their children to quality educational options and to have as many educational options as I had growing up and before. And so it's something that's really important to me, and this part, talking about social determinants of education, all of the outside factors are just as equally important as what's going on inside.
Hello there, I'm not Katie, however, we chose to keep her in our slides. She's not here with us today, she actually just moved a week ago, but she was a huge contributor to this project. So we thought it was important to keep her face up there and know that she put a lot of effort and energy into this as well. My name is Rory Reiner, and my why I'm so passionate about this topic is because I work as a community resources specialist, and so I see day to day these amazing nonprofits that exist in the world that have so many resources and staff that are passionate and educated, and they're willing and ready to help people, and then people aren't utilizing them. And so I was a little perplexed by this, wondering what is it that's keeping individuals from accessing these amazing organizations that are so well equipped to do exactly what they need. And so this project gave me a glimpse into some of those barriers that people are experiencing and try to alleviate those through our
Hi, my name is Cameron St. Germain. I'm so excited to be able to present along with these amazing individuals. My why is I truly have an intense belief that every child deserves an excellent education, one where they feel safe and empowered. Growing up and being a proud member of the LGBTQ+ community and being a victim of bullying, I didn't feel safe at school, and this really hindered my academic growth. So it's my strong belief that every student feels safe, empowered, and can really fulfill their wildest dreams.
Hi everyone, my name is Adrian Hernandez. Soy orgulloso mexicano, originally from Paradise, Texas, a veteran, an English language learner, and a member of the LGBT community. I say all of those things because all of those things very much are core to not just my beliefs, but the work that I do every single day. It's important for me understanding the lack of equity and lack of access to opportunity, how it affected my life detrimentally, and ahead of the work that we're doing, the research we're doing, ensuring that that is no longer the case for any student who is educated here in Arizona.
Hi, my name is Valeria Lopez Gonzalez. I'm first generation American, first generation college student. My education is in women and gender studies and social welfare. I work primarily with community-led organizations and student-led activist groups. These issues are very personal to me, and I joined Adelante to bring all those student stories, family stories, and my own stories to the table as a powerful tool to bring this, move this work forward. And so we all come from diverse backgrounds, but we come together with common beliefs behind our research topic. I have to do notes and microphone. So the past couple of years, the COVID-19 pandemic has made it clear that schools must serve the whole child and redefine their charge to include learning opportunities and also serve child well-being, physical health, housing services, social emotional wellness, food and nutrition, and mental health support. The COVID-19 pandemic definitely shed light on the social, emotional, social, economic inequities in our society and how they are prevalent in our schools. This was tricky research because it's hard to tackle one topic without touching another. As Serena said, this is an all-encompassing issue. And a guiding moment in our research was an interview. We did with a school social worker. And through that conversation, we learned that students have a big need for mental health support. They want the help. But a big barrier to that is their parents. Their parents are hesitant to accept the help. There is a cultural divide often between first-gen Latino students that she works with and with their parents, whether it's shame around accepting the help or a misunderstanding or distrust of experts. Sometimes it's, why not my kid best? They're not depressed. Or, why are you depressed? You have a bed to sleep in, you have food, you have a home, which is something that I experienced myself. Another barrier to students receiving help is that there is no standard of care or no state requirements for the referral system. So what does that mean? It means a student may receive a resource or guidance to where to go, but there's no state required follow-up. So maybe they have trouble getting help, but there's no one to help them. And like I said, this is something that I experienced myself. Between the summer of 8th grade and freshman year of high school, I faced a traumatic experience that deeply affected me and my mental health. I went from being a student who was very passionate about learning, excited to show up to school, and from after that experience, I missed about 10 days of school just in my first semester of high school. I didn't have any teachers or social workers at my school that noticed this. There was no social worker at my school. So it was really on me, a 13, 14-year-old kid, to do the research and to try to look up, well, what is therapy? What does it mean to have anxiety? What does it mean to have depression? And so it was a difficult experience and one that I also went through with my younger sister as well.
I'm also going to use some notes here. Like Valeria outlined, a lot of what we did at the beginning of this project was really just try to set a baseline. What is determinants? What does it mean to have, what are the social determinants of our lives? So going out there and understanding that first was quite the feat. We first looked at social determinants of health. The social determinants of health is a long-standing body of research, groups, organizations, coalitions that have defined the things that a person needs to have a health. Social determinants of education. We were looking for those answers on the internet, like we do. The reality was, though, there is no established body for the social determinants of education the way there is for health. And so it wasn't until May 2021 on Education put out MAP, which is our guidebook for the social determinants of education. Those include poverty, healthcare, mental health, school to prison pipeline, housing, food insecurity, immigration, climate, and economy. And so these outline what is absolutely necessary for a student to have a quality education and a quality health and quality life.
So one of the things that Valeria mentioned earlier too is that there are places out there with a lot of resources for families, for students, but they don't talk to each other, and sometimes it can be very difficult for families, one, to know they exist, and two, they might know it exists and not really understand how to access it or how they interplay with each other. And so we developed this result statement for our project. Group Hub will identify existing student services focused on addressing each of the social determinants of education and compile them in an accessible manner for families. Resources will focus on the Phoenix Union School District with the template able to be recreated for other districts. So it was our hope in developing our resource guide that it could serve as a first step, be changeable, be able to be edited for whichever district needs to use it, what their communities look like. And I will say now, if you do have a phone on you, we'll be showing you a QR code so that you can see the resource guide. If you wanted to check it out, just have your phone. And we have 2 physical copies.
Awesome. So this is the fun part, the actual project. Everyone just take a breath really quick. We've got a lot of information in. These are some heavy topics about our youth and what they're experiencing. But the exciting thing is that we have a group of leaders here to tackle them, and so we're hopeful for the future. And for this project, we were able to dive into the research. So we started by taking a look at these different social determinants of health and seeing what each one already has data about. So we looked at how these social determinants are affecting students in the classroom and what data exists. For instance, my topic was physical health, so it was looking kind of similar to our chronic absenteeism group. It was saying how health problems can contribute to students missing classes, and how not knowing how to access doctors, not having health insurance, can be a major barrier for kids to get their education. And so when parents and the rest of the family doesn't know how to access those resources, it impacts the student in the classroom, even though it has absolutely nothing to do with school. So these determinants, we found out some of the ways, the hopeful part to combat them. we found some resources that exist. We outlined step by step how to access those resources, which was really important to us, especially as Larry mentioned, if we're giving that to a student to be able to take it and use it for themselves, because not everyone has a parent at home that has the knowledge, or maybe doesn't have a parent at home period to help them through this. So trying to make it as digestible as possible, so very easy steps, listing exactly the information someone would need to access those resources. And then of course we looked at some of the specific challenges as to why people were not accessing those resources. So that included things like their hours were outside of 8 to 5, because if parents have a job from 8 to 5, it's really hard to get to those resources. So we kind of listed out a criteria for resources to make sure that we were doing our best to address those barriers wherever possible. So we were picking those places that were open outside of 8 to 5 to include, and that's kind of how we prioritized which ones to list. We didn't want to list everything under the sun, and that was because it's overwhelming. I don't know if you've ever looked at a resource guide that's like 200 pages long, but I'm not interested in that. So we limited it to 3 to 5 resources for each area that were specific to address those barriers. And of course we mentioned this is a draft. We still have some further steps to verify those resources, make sure that they really are hitting those systemic barriers for people, and just hearing feedback from the community on it. That's the step that we'd like to take next. So I'll hand it off for a little bit more about our future proposal.
First, we'll give you 2 minutes to look at the resource guide, peek through it. Maybe like 30 seconds.
So as we look through, we do want to mention that we had criteria for choosing our community partners. We wanted to make sure that they were values aligned with us, that they had programs geared toward youth, teens, young adults, that they had website or digital resources that were regularly updated. It can be pretty discouraging when you click on a link and then there's nothing there. As well as equitable access, which Rory touched on. Hours outside of the regular 9 to 5, so students could go to their working families, it was accessible to working families. Transportation accessibility, we focused on the Phoenix Union District area, so we had things in the area. Completely free or low-cost options, as well as bilingual or multilingual options available. One of my favorite parts of our resource guide is that we have little vocab words that, from my own experience, I talked about how I felt alone in my journey to find help from my mental illness. And in there we got broken down definition of therapy, the definition of psychiatrist, psychologist, and so forth. For each section we have those definitions to provide some help to young students or young adults who feel alone and affected.
Awesome. So now we'll talk about next steps. I think something that's so amazing about this fellowship is the fact that it's going to be a continuous project and we're going to pass it down. So we really wanted to come up with concrete steps that future fellows could take in order to ensure that this project takes effect across the valley. So we first want the future fellows to verify the list of resources. So we didn't get to go through and make sure that each resource met all of our criteria of being open after standard work hours or having Spanish translation on board. So we really want first that the organizations within our particular resource guide are verified. We want to make sure that the resource guide is translated into Spanish as well as other languages that represent the community with which it's being utilized. We want to duplicate the resource guide for other school districts, so we want this to take effect across the valley so we can really reach all different types of schools and ensure that everyone is aware of the different resources that are available in the different sub-areas. We want to communicate with student support staff at each school district to get the resource guide into their offices and also into the student office. We want to establish potential family liaisons within school, ideally someone who understands, knows firsthand the challenges of our constituents. present a draft of the resource guide to a focus group, so really bring it to the individuals who are being most affected so that they can give us feedback and they can create change and make a resource guide that is really effective for individuals who may be in similar situations. And then we want to revise and adjust as necessary with continued research. I mean, there's always new organizations such as All in Education that are opening, that are starting, that are really creating a substantial change. So we really want to continue to update the resource guide. Develop a website for online virtual access, and then of course, print and distribution across the valley. And now I'm going to pass it off to our amazing, incredible team lead to close us out.
So I just wanted to say thank you, since I've got everyone's attention, to the All in Ed team, to Joanna, to our team. I think that what you've seen here too with our group, especially to the chronic absenteeism group, that there is so much out there that needs to be looked into that nobody has done research on yet, and there's a lot of heavy lifting that needs to get done. And so I'm really proud, and we're all really proud to have been a part of something like this. And so thank you for the opportunity that you gave us as Adelante Fellows, and thank you guys all for being here and supporting us just as a whole.
I know a few people at Phoenix Union that can help with this resource guide, so we'll talk about that. Give up our Adelante Fellows one more big round. He is the reason why I am here, the reason why All in Education came to fruition, so I want to turn it over to him to share a few closing words.
Thank you, Stephanie. So Stephanie's right, I am on the way for celebration, right? Like I'm the one stopping the celebration, so I'll be so fast and just say, actually, I wrote a whole bunch of things when you were doing your pitches and your presentations. And I decided at the end, you know what, I'm going to throw all that away and be quicker and faster. So I'm just going to say this. All in Education was created because I was doing a campaign on the fact that so many students in Arizona are kicked out of classrooms in many different ways. They're either sometimes selected at the moment of enrollment, although you are an English language learner or you are a kid with special needs. So we'll put additional obstacles for you to make it to our school so that we can keep our A grade level, or that we can keep the reputation of our school. We created that system on purpose, and I say we because this is a system that has been created for decades and centuries in order to separate few students to be successful and others not to be. We talked about today an education system that is broken, especially for Latino students and students of color. But if we were looking at this presentation in more affluent communities, the system is not broken over there, the system is working for them. So when we were doing these campaigns to try to put pressure on why is it that the system wasn't working for students like us and for students like our kids, we learned that those making decisions weren't reflective of the communities that we come from. Only 2 Latinos were sitting on the 3 main boards of education at the statewide level at that time. The State Board of Education, the Charter Board of Education, and the Board of Regents. Out of those 30-something seats, only 2 were considered themselves and identified themselves as Latino. To make matters worse, there weren't any plans. And we were pushing the governor to a point where when people, he said, we don't know, there's no people, what do we do? Who do we elect? Who do we appoint? We said, well, we have a long list of people. that we can show you, that we can share with you. So we did a campaign called All in Education, Arizona Latino Leaders in Education, with the intention of putting pressure. Every single one of the people you heard from today could be in those seats. Every single one of them could actually represent the community, the solutions. Those closest to the problem are the ones closest to the solutions. And in this case today, we heard of incredible ideas and incredible thought topics on how to do that. The last thing I want to say is that this has to be done not just with ideas or research, but it has to be done by building political power. It is not enough to hope that the system will change itself just by itself. It's going to take each one of us to dismantle it, to think about it differently, to think about it and reform it differently, to think about what we do within the system, against the system, and without the system. Today we heard about it. Proposition that hopefully will eliminate once and for all the out-of-state tuition for undocumented students. That is something that we're asking voters to do. But we cannot forget that when Prop 300 passed in the beginning of 2000s, it received 40% of Latino support. I'm going to say that again. Prop 300, the bill that now, the ballot initiative that we're trying to bring and repeal, received 40% of Latino support back then. Why? Because the system is actually made for us to turn on each other, to work only on the individuals, and not think about the collective power we have when we come together like this, and we create networks of power, and we see each other's clairvoyance, and we see each other's brilliance, and we see each other's challenges, and we help each other to fix the system. But we also sometimes have to go against the system when we're not being heard. We also have to sometimes protest, and we have to sometimes boycott, and we have sometimes to actually stop it. Not all of us, but those who can and those who want. Because sometimes we're not being heard at the ballot box. Sometimes we're not being heard at the legislature. And we have to also disrupt it, we have to also collab, we have to also raise our voices. And sometimes that has to be in our workplaces, and that has to be sometimes in institutions that we belong to. That sometimes has to be in the pupils that we sit. And finally, it has to be without the system. Sometimes we have to create resources because the system hasn't created it for us. Sometimes we have to invent things with our resilience and our clairvoyance so that we can actually make them happen because the system is not making them for us. And I'll leave you before the tacos and the drinks to say that it will take each one of us, not just the graduates tonight that I appreciate and that I was so inspired by, but that it will take each one of us, the guests and family members and the relatives and the chosen family that we have, our partners, our loved ones, to change the system that has for way too long not served us. It has to be done by the work internally of how do we notice the things that we are doing, the decisions that we're making, who we are including, who we're not including, who's around the room, who is not, in order for us to make sure that we can include more voices and be more strong. Or it has to be the interpersonal, calling each other in, supporting each other, remembering that today is not about a presentation of groups, it's about a network of power that was built so in 10 years you can call each other out when you are in the governor's office and say, do you remember you were working on absenteeism? Well, it's matter to take action today. Or do you remember when you said you were going to run for office? I'm going to donate that to your campaign. Or do you remember when you said that we need more teachers? Well, it's a matter of now your organization helping that issue so that that network of power can continue to change things. That's why we created All in Education. Because we cannot wait for someone else to save ourselves. It has to be ourselves. The quote that I always come back to every time I think about fellowships and opportunities like this is Octavia Butler's quote from one of her books in the trilogy that I'll remember in a little bit, but the quote says, all that you touch, you change. All that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only truth is change. God is change, she says. And I walk tonight leading and inspired and moved and empowered and excited about supporting all these initiatives by thinking that everything you will touch in your lives will change and everything that you change will change you as well. And that hopefully that we continue to evolve and change the system ourselves, individually, collectively, institutionally, systemically, so that we can make a better world together. Thank you so much everybody for the time today. Enjoy the tacos and have a good one.
All right. if I did not give one more big shout out to our incredible director of the program. And just one quick call to action. This work is supported, is going to live on and because of our community. So please you can text to donate Adelante, text Adelante 2022 to 44321. Donate whatever you can, $5, $10. It costs $5,000 to put a fellow through the program. So anything that you can contribute will help us get more fellows into the cohort next year. And then just to close this out before we go out to